Okay, are we actually back now? That was random. I definitely checked the audio before I started. Are we in here now? I see it coming out of OBS. Is it making it to the stream? Okay, great. Thank you. That's so random. Okay, let's go back to what we're doing then. See if we have found a solution. Okay, persistent Python approach isn't just not slower, save time faster. Ooh, eliminates both process startup and database connection overhead. Summary. Okay. Here's a summary. One 3-line bash function, simplest change. Okay. Via coproc. A 60-line Python server script, 20-line bash DB query wrapper, true parameterized queries, the gold standard, 8 times faster. Connection reuse, clear error propagation. Trade-off adds Python 3 dependency. Requires lifecycle management. Values can't contain new lines. Right. Both approaches solve the single quote. I think we're going to have to go with the Python solution. It's probably going to be a bit of work. Okay, let's go with the gold standard. Python approach. Go ahead and update the plan file. Okay. So, back to what I was trying to say while we let this work. So, yeah, I'd say for about 4 months, or probably longer than that, honestly. Probably maybe like 6 months, I was just trying to really dive deep into using AI for development and was really trying to give over the helm to AI. And like I said, this was also when I was trying to learn how to be a software developer. So I was kind of missing out on learning and was just kind of learning how to use AI more so. And definitely found a lot of boundaries there. You know, AI is just, it's only able to get so complex. And you can even see, as we're working through this section, you know, the other day I had Claude go through my entire code base and just kind of find all these issues, all these improvements that we can make, and make all these files. But you know, as we get started today, you know, I need to verify things. I need to make sure that the approaches that it wants to make are correct. You know, you have to know where you need to step in, and you need to know how your code works. You know, when I started this project, it's not something that's really in existence. It's not something that's really in the AI's memory, you know, what it knows about whenever it was created. Yeah, it definitely doesn't stand up to the hype. You know, I'm never going to be out here putting 16 agents creating their own applications. But, you know, I think finding where the balance is, you know, definitely just don't decide not to use AI at all and don't decide to go full-fledged into it. But just finding where that balance is, where you can keep learning, you can still be, you know, ahead of the AI, still know what you're doing, and being able to lead the AI and know when to use it. I think that's kind of where it comes into play. And I don't think you know, that's definitely all the hype people aren't telling you the right approach for that. And there's probably not a whole lot of people out there that really know the exact balance. And it's probably different for each person, you know, depending on your experience. Let me look over this real fast. Verified findings. Start implementing phase 1 whenever you are. Yeah, I agree. It can be a rough path. I tried college for a little bit. It wasn't really my gig. You know, I work like 40 hours a week. And also there's just some things to the college approach that just doesn't sit well with me. It kind of feels a little scammy. So yeah, I've been working for at least the last year. Yeah, I think 2025 is when I tried out college for a few months, and so since I stopped doing that, I've just been kind of diving into the self-taught developer route. It's been going well. Like I say, I think I made a mistake to start with where I just kind of put too much stock into AI, and really just a couple months ago I was like, no, I've got to take a step back. Like, I've really got to know what I'm doing here. and also just the projects that I'm trying to create. I've got to figure out where I want to start because I was doing a lot of web applications, and that can get pretty complex as a beginner. I think this is a really good project to start with. Like I say, it's all back end for the most part, and I think it has some real use once I actually get it going, and it's pretty much running now. But so it's definitely a good starting point. And when I was starting with this project, I guess I was spending a lot more time actually hand coding things. I'm kind of decent with Bash. That's pretty much what this whole project is. Um, so yeah, a lot of like the core of this project I built out personally because that was kind of outside of what the AI knows. But then once I got into just making database functions, then I was kind of able to put that off on AI. Even though I'm saying that now, and we're having to go back through all of our database functions and probably recreate them. But that is what it is. Yeah, mechanical engineering. Yeah, yeah. I went to college for communications right when I got out of high school for radio engineering because that's where I was at when I got out of, when I was in high school. I was working at a radio station, but it took me until I was like 27 years old to start getting an idea of what I actually want to do in life. And now that I'm 30, I'm definitely I definitely want to go with software development. Even if I don't ever make money from it, which I'm hoping I do. I'm just kind of working in in the industrial right now. So I'm just at a factory every day. Okay, let's see if we can get this to keep moving. Let's just make sure that we're at a fresh commit. Okay. Oops. Let's grab this again. Yeah, 25 or 26. Yeah. Yeah, it would have been great if I knew I wanted to be a software developer right out of high school, because I probably would have just went with the college route and stuck it through. But it feels like a little bit of wasted time at this point, and also I think software developers going to college now are going to have a rough time because there is no telling how AI is going to change software development in the next couple of years, and it's really hard for college to keep up with stuff like that. So I think just kind of like being here and just kind of learning for myself and not really having like a designated way that I have to learn things is probably a better route. But every job application wants to say, "Oh, you gotta have a computer science degree," but I don't know. That could change. I think that could change. Okay. Um, yeah. Before I run this prompt, I'll just kind of show my instructions. 3-month boot camp. Yeah, I've definitely been thinking about boot camps. Definitely been thinking about boot camps. When I did data science, yeah. My first job required a master's. Yeah, that's also how a lot of jobs kind of are. They just want to like throw a whole bunch of things on the job requirements, and then it's understandable. You just got to be willing to apply anyways. But I also see too many horror stories where I see people putting out 500 applications and not getting any responses. I'm like, I don't really want to waste all my time with that right now. So just kind of build out my skills, maybe build out a project or two, kind of try to get involved in the community some more, and then we'll see about applying to places. Hopefully they kind of more come to me. That would be the Okay, let me just kind of show my instructions. So you see people using AI with like plan mode and whatnot. Like I say, I kind of use like a hybrid approach, or it's kind of all put in the instructions. It can kind of understand whatever I'm talking to it about. It understands if it's in plan mode or if it's ready to develop. So give it the project location, the logs location, tell it what tool to use. Tell it not to write files unless explicitly instructed. That just kind of keeps it from writing random summary files, and just like I could tell it what I want to do and it immediately starts writing. I don't really want it to ever do that. Give it a few points about how to make bash scripts. Nothing too crazy here. We use pretty strict standards whenever making bash scripts. That's kind of what that does. And then making sure variables are safe. Blah, blah, blah. And we keep our SQL operations in the DB. I don't want SQL all throughout the business logic, so just makes it hard to handle. Yeah, I definitely like that approach. I definitely like the bootcamp approach. I want to spend a little bit more time kind of learning on my own right now, but I could see in the next 6 months me trying out a bootcamp for sure. And I really just need to get involved in networking. I live in a pretty big city, so there's actually a bit of networking I could already be doing, but I live a little bit outside the city. I'm not like directly in it, so I just got to put a little bit extra effort. And also I work nights, so literally all the networking is past 5 p.m. Makes it a little bit harder, but yeah. Yeah, I almost had to trick myself into being a software developer. Like I say, I started in VBA, and when I was making functions in VBA, like I wasn't even thinking like, oh, I'm being a coder. I was like, oh, I'm just like doing a little bit more advanced stuff than just Excel spreadsheets. Like, but once I finally decided to move to Python and like open myself up to like the rest of it, I was like, yeah, I was just coding for like 2 years. Like I actually know, I know how to build functions pretty well. I know loops. I know if statements. I know all this stuff. It was a good place to start. Thinking back now, but I don't use VBA at all anymore. I don't think I can go back to that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would like remote work, but really, I would just like a job in software development, regardless, because my current job kind of murders me. Oh, wait, I probably shouldn't say that on stream. Okay, let me just kind of finish this off. Change to workflow before making any updates. Show the intended. Yeah, this is kind of like the core of it. So whenever I start in a session, it's never just going to take what I say and immediately start implementing something. Before making any updates, show the intended changes and stop. Wait for explicit approval before writing to files. So this just kind of shows where I can see a summary of what it wants to change in my code base. I can kind of read over that, and then if I'm making adjustments to that plan, I also just want it to show me the adjustments. I don't want it to keep printing out the entire plan over and over again. Whenever it's making plan files, it doesn't necessarily need to do this because that's just doing it twice. And then when I tell it to proceed with updates, that's when it actually will go in and make the updates. And it's been pretty good about staying on task with that. I don't know if this would work so well using like Sonnet or not using extended thinking. I've had issues with that before, but using the best model with extended thinking, it tends to stay on task. I also don't want it to make git commits. I do all that on my own. So cool. Let's let this go. Yeah, it should be that simple. Yeah, if I'd have started around COVID, that'd have been where it's at. Definitely. I wasn't getting any work around COVID. I thought nobody was working. I didn't realize that software developers were flourishing. I probably would have got into it then. Um, I could kind of show how my application works because it should still work as is. We can just kind of let me pull this over. Let's go kdoitall workspace list. Okay, I'm on a new user because I had to make a new user for streaming. So I think I can just run the install script though, which I haven't actually ran yet. So let's try that out. Let's go cd home shared kdoitall. I spelled something wrong. I had to. What are we doing here? cd home shared. Oh, my bad. Okay, let's just go scripts, install. Let's make sure this isn't making changes right now. Yeah, just show me the point. Okay, cool. Let's try the install script, see if it actually works. It's not available in a standard package. Do I have kdoitall on this user? I gotta put a kdoitall on this too. I think I can just install it from DNF though. We're just gonna try that for now. Yes, go ahead. Failed to install package. That's fair enough. Yeah, we'll have to install that from GitHub. Drafting work for boat flooring manufacturing in 2020. It's lifted, we would. Yeah. Yeah, I was actually doing Jimmy John's delivery whenever COVID hit, and they still tried to give us some hours, but it was so slow. I'd go in for like an hour and a half, and they'd be like, "Ah, you can go home." I'd be like, "Why did I just drive here?" For boat flooring. Yeah. I mean, at least you got the hours in. I wasn't even able to get hours. Okay. Let's start this. Let me read over this. Have a clear picture of the code base. Let me summarize key findings. Which is a plan, no changes needed. Guard DB server stop. Oh, this is probably gonna be the biggest update that I have Claude do. So this is a little bit worrisome, but I have faith in it. We'll see. 3 integration points, source helpers at the start of layer 3. After database. Just clean up on exit. Okay. 2 new files. See updates. Yeah. I've been liking Opus 4.6. Actually, I just got back on the Max plan. I was on it for a while when I was just letting AI fully take over, and then I got back off of it when I was like, no, let me actually learn some languages. I've just got back on the Max plan just because it's kind of been more necessary, and I've been getting a lot more use out of Claude recently, and putting it on 4.6 extended. It's been pretty reliable. Yeah. Like I say, it's kind of difficult finding where you can let AI just take over and just go at it, make a lot of files. But once you kind of find those points where it can take over, like it's like a 10, 15 times X improver. Is this the desktop app? Yeah, it is the desktop app. It's not actually the current desktop app because I'm on Fedora. I'm on Linux right now, and it doesn't really have a. I can't just use it from Claude. It's actually. Oh crap. Let me pull this up. La da 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 da. Let's go GitHub, and it's called Claude Desktop Fedora. Yeah. So I'm actually using a GitHub repo that just makes like a Windows instance, like the Windows operating system. Um, and yeah, I like Claude Desktop just because it shows me a lot more information. I keep trying Claude Code, and it's just hard for me to kind of follow along. Like if I just really want it to go off and do something and I don't really need to know what it does, then I'll use Claude Code because it's slightly more reliable. This will crash more often. But if you just kind of keep an eye on it, then it won't. Really, it just crashes whenever I give it a large task and it just keeps going and going to the point that it needs to like condense or compact its conversation. Then sometimes it'll crash. But as long as I don't let it just keep going and going, then it's reliable. And like I say, I like this a lot more because I can see what's going on, puts it in markdown form. It's just a lot easier. Yeah. Yeah. I like Claude. I like Claude Code though. You know, I have the max plan now, so I'm kind of like I want to use the tokens that I have. So whenever I'm not working on this, I'll just kind of let Claude Code do some stuff, like work on its own little projects and just see what it wants to do. Summary of what was done. Made the DB server, Python file, persistent Python query server with true parameterized binding. Cool. Modified files. Change the bin. Add a DB server. Let's continue. Yeah, I've used like ChatGPT and Gemini, but I don't really use that for coding. Really, I don't have it set up on my OS to actually be able to code. Um, as far as coding goes, I've just always had a better time with Claude. It's just kind of more consistent, uses better practices, or has better ideas about how to like form things. I don't know. The current version of ChatGPT is probably pretty good, but I think Opus 4.6 is just kind of the gold standard right now. Same pattern. Okay. Yeah, so there was some SQLite statements like in the business logic. That's just kind of what it's doing now. It's just fixing that. Fair enough. See with dates. You use the web browser for Claude via Amazon Bedrock. I don't really know what that is. I need to try to get my chats on my actual screen. I was working on a little project for that, but it's not completely ready yet. See, I'm streaming on YouTube and Twitch right now, so I was gonna make a little project that just kind of put the overlay up on it for OBS. I'll probably have that. I'll probably try to work on that this weekend. OpenCloud is Claude Code, like alternative as. Oh yeah, yeah. You can just kind of use whatever LLM with OpenCode. Yeah, that makes sense. Let me go over here for a second. What operating system do you usually use? Like the project that I'm working on now is like pretty specifically for KDE Plasma, which runs on a lot of different Linux distributions. Okay. Yeah. That's what's up. Yeah. When I started coding, I was on Windows. I've been on Windows my entire life, and then I don't know. I was having a lot of issues trying to code with Windows. I think it's because I was trying to like really configure my workspace and stuff like that. So I ended up moving over to Linux. I think I tried Ubuntu for a minute and didn't had a lot of issues with that, and then went to Fedora, which is what I use now, and I've loved Fedora. It's been a very stable distro. Yeah, I'd like to mess around with Raspberry. I want to get one of those. That's cool stuff. Um, let's see, let's go. Where do I want to put this? I think we'll just throw it in the actual. I don't actually have that. Oops. Okay. Could put it in this. Is that the full command? Oh wait, I think it is. We'll see. Okay. Thinking back, I actually installed this a different way, but maybe I can just do it like this. Doesn't have instructions on how to install. Yeah, I definitely just used the. Is this what I went to? That's what I used. I think that's what I used. I'll have to set that up later because that's just going to take me too much time. Pop OS. Yeah, I would like to try out other distributions, but at the same time, I don't want to spend too much time just messing with my operating system. I'm more and just trying to make projects and learn how to code, learn new languages. I want to get into learning Go here soon. I spent some time learning Python. Kind of decent at Python, but just kind of looking into things. I feel like I want to actually kind of dive deeper into Go. Let me go back. What were we doing over here? Lose my train of thought sometimes. Let me confirm. Calls remain 0. All good stuff. Compete. Multiple redirections compete for a studer. Yeah. I don't know about that. Ansible? Is that a language? Is that a new language or like a really old language? I've never even heard of that. Configuration management. Agentless IT automation engine. It's a tool. With this stuff. I'll have to look into it more. You haven't heard of Ansible. Yeah, that's interesting. I wish I could actually show my project right now. But I've just been setting up this new user, so I know there's some things missing. But I gotta get kdoitall working. I think. Try not to do too many things at once, though. Yeah, I didn't have, I think, too much difficulty installing all this software when I get started. I think Fedora handles that pretty well too. It's a pretty user-friendly operating system or distribution. I mean. I would like to do this. Yeah, that's definitely what I like most about software development. It's just being able to automate things. The first big project that I worked on was a finance tracker. That's actually how I started. Why I started with Excel is I was making a like a finance tracker, and I was like learning from a YouTube video. I spent like a couple hours making this finance tracker with Excel, and then just wanted to keep adding on to it. So I just learned more and more, and then ended up learning VBA. But obviously, like I started hitting a lot of limitations the more complex I tried to make it, and so finally I was like, I really should just dive into like Python, dive into some more languages, and figure out how that works. And so I spent a lot of time making the finance tracker with Python, and got it pretty far. But also was using like JavaScript and Python and CSS and stuff like that. And I hadn't really learned front end very much, so I was really just letting AI make all the front end for the most part. And I got really far with it, but also wasn't learning enough along the way because it was maybe too complex of a project. But I might go back to it at some point because it actually is pretty developed and a pretty cool project. Yeah, I never actually did Python with Excel. I just like had my entire project with Excel that I was like doing VBA with, and then I was like just moved over to Python and making the project just with like Python and JavaScript and stuff like that, and just kind of referencing, some of like the logic and the features that I had already created with Excel, just kind of recreating it with Python and made it like a web application. So well, that's cool. Yeah, it was on Google Sheets. Yeah, yeah. I think since I moved on to Python, I also like, I was using SQL with that project, so I haven't really gone back to spreadsheets since then. Anytime I want to do a database of some sort, I'm just using SQL. Um, the finance tracker I was actually using Postgres, which was also like a pretty complex way to start, and I didn't really fully understand that, and it was also augmenting through like SQL alchemy, and so I wasn't even like making actual SQL statements. It was, but this project I'm using SQLite, which is simpler to use, and using actual SQL statements. So I'm actually learning a bit about SQL now. Yeah, SQLite is nice. Very nice. SQLite. Squealite. Yeah, this Bash project has also been a really nice project because Bash isn't that complex of a language. It's not super in depth. It's got some complexity to it when you get into, launching different shells and this and that, but overall not very complex of a language. But getting it to work with other languages, apparently, it's not that easy. But we're getting it going now. Yeah. When I first jumped over to Linux, I was like in deep water. Didn't really know what was going on, and was trying to like set things up and set up my environment and everything like that, and trying to make a few little automation things like a backup manager. That was a big thing because I've lost a lot of files in my past, and I kind of have trauma over that. So I was like, I don't want to lose files again. So I made like have my backup drive and then also on the cloud, and I was like, I need to try to set this up, and tried to get AI to make me all these scripts, and it didn't really work. I ended up just kind of doing it manually. But after about a year that I've been on Linux now, I kind of like went back to those automations that I wanted, which a lot of it was just like I want to be able to mount my external drive quickly. I want to be able to like run these backups pretty quickly, and I actually have a pretty good script now. Like I can just have like an external drive that I use just for extra storage, and then I have like my backup drive. I can just plug those both in, run a command, and it like prompts me for my admin password, put that in, and then it like uses a password manager to like, these drives are Luke's encrypted, and like my backups are also, password need passwords. So I just have passwords in a password manager, and I just unlock the vault for the password manager. It is able to query items in there real fast and unlocks the drives, runs a backup to the backup drive of like my personal files. It does for my extended drive, runs a backup to the cloud. It also runs a backup of my personal files to the cloud from my computer hard drive, and it runs a system backup with time shift as well. So like, it's been pretty good. I haven't really had many errors since I kind of reconfigured it, but Yeah, it definitely works a lot better now. Because when I first tried to make it, it's like I just kept getting errors and errors over and over again because I was getting AI to build it and it was literally like I'd get an error and I'd just keep giving it the error back and I'd keep trying to fix it. But now that I kind of know more about Bash and more about Linux, I was able to go in and actually watch the process and kind of like lead it. And, you know, it, it was still pretty AI assisted because I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of time, hand coding it all out and didn't really need to know like the full complexity of it. But I was able to understand it enough to guide the AI to actually build it. This thing is going. This is the points where it wants to crash. I'm hoping it doesn't actually crash and it just hurry up and finishes. Thank you. Dang. Yeah, I have a lot of database functions. This is true. That was one file? Oh no. Was that really one file? Ugh, that's ugly. DB. That's not what I was. No, yeah, these are all the files that I have for database functions. And I think it just took that long to do one. Why is it not showing as yellow? Man. Yeah, it's a pretty major refactor. Yeah. Now that I actually know how Bash works, it does feel really nice. Now that I can actually automate things that I want to automate, have more control. Like I say, I have like the backup manager it's a pretty simple little project, but this project kdoitall is pretty complex. So like the standards that I use like are more thought out and like I have like a full debug system. You can see like all my functions have like debug function enter and stuff like that. I don't think I have my logs right now, but yeah. If I need to like debug things, like I'm able to like really track down the full process. I have like different levels of debugging. I wish I could actually show it right now, but it's not set up on this user. I don't know if I want this to continue on this session. This session's already really deep. Yeah. It's gonna make a file, isn't it? Thank you. Yeah, I think if I was really wanting to dive into Bash and like fully understand it and really just be able to hand code absolutely everything, then I wouldn't be doing all this extra AI stuff, but and letting Claude do all this work. But I feel like I understand Bash well enough. I don't think it's going to be something that I'm going to be need to be an expert on necessarily. So I just need to know what I'm building is correct now. I don't need to like super build the patterns in my brain by repetition. I don't think. But once I get into like learning a new language, like once I get into Go, I'm not going to be throwing off all my tasks onto Claude to do. I guess I can go back to here. Extract it and move the binary to somewhere on your path. Sounds about right. That's fast. Nice. Okay, we're getting somewhere. So is okay, do it all. I think I need to run that. Did that not make yeah. Okay. Now, it's probably not going to actually work because we're doing the refactor, but I do have it up now. Create workspace. Yep, you got it. Probably doesn't need to be doing all this. That's probably just extra work at this point. Yeah, man. It's great to talk to you, too. Appreciate you joining the chat. Come back sometime. I'm going to try to start streaming around this time. At least a few days a week. Maybe like Tuesday through Thursday. So, yeah, man. Thanks for hanging out. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Let's see. Yeah, it's just not gonna work right now. That's fine. That's cool. Kitty cat. You wanna? You need something? Bada bing, bada boom. So, let's see. So right now we just have Claude going through fixing all my database functions. When they were initially created, I thought I was using good practices, but apparently there was still some SQL injection security concerns, and yeah, some of the functions could fail if there was a quote or if there was a quote in the entry. So let's see. I'm just trying to get it to update all these database functions right now, which is something that I do not want to hand code because there's a lot of database functions. Yes. Continue. You can proceed with the updates. don't have to show the plan. I guess I probably should get like a version of my project that I can just run while I'm having Claude fix it up. So I'm having Claude fix a different version of the project than I'm actually trying to like demo. That'd be a good idea. Yeah. Yeah. So I have like most of the features actually built out for kdoitall now. I think version 2 is basically ready. I've just kind of been going over the whole code base, making sure we're using good patterns, making sure the performance is good, and making sure that we're addressing safety concerns. And once this refactor is finished, then I think version 2 is going to be very usable. And then once I get version 2 out, then I'll be able to go in and actually start making a lot of app definitions for different applications. So right now, most applications are just launching by just launching the desktop files. So it's just a basic launch, but we're also going to get into having kdoitall launch applications through the terminal. So it's like for VS Code or something like that, it could launch VS Code into a specific directory. If you're on a browser, it can launch the browser on a URL. We can just kind of get better configurations for launches. And that's going to be kind of the next step of development after we finish this refactoring. Let's see. One thing to flag: db get window definition and db list window definitions previously used mode tabs. Tab separated output after migration. The Python server outputs separated columns instead of callers that parse this output. Ifs we'll need to switch to ifs. We'll need to search for those callers now. Yeah, probably so. Add this concern to the plan. Bada bing, bada boom. Where's that light ray coming from? It got me. I think it's coming from over here. Let's see updates. Browser encountered an error. Oh no. Am I still streaming? Okay. So I didn't lose a stream there. I guess that is one thing I was supposed to do. Oops. Bada bing, bada boom. Yeah, so this refactor has a lot of phases to it. Right now, what we're just on. Oh, we're still on number 1. Yeah, we've got a lot of fixes to do for security improvements and for processing improvements. But this is an important work, so we're gonna take our time with it. Thanks for hanging out with me. Right now we're just working through some plans, going through the code base and making improvements. It's like before we weren't using the best method for SQLite, and so we're just trying to improve that. Kind of utilizing Python so that we are able to mitigate and not have SQL injection security concerns. And yeah, that's just kind of requiring us going back through each of our database functions, and we have quite a few database functions. So I don't know why that's not showing as yellow. That's strange. But we are going. Bada bing, bada boom. Yep. If you've been coding with AI, let me know what your experience has been like. I can kind of tell you about my experience. I've been coding with AI for probably the last 4 years. When I started learning how to be a software developer, it's probably when AI was just starting to get a little popular. Definitely isn't as powerful as it is now. So, I definitely wasn't having it create full projects back then. I was just kind of using it as a replacement to Google. And then, as I kind of started getting into more languages like Python and JavaScript and front end and back end and stuff like that, started using AI more, just kind of helping the areas that I wasn't fully focused on, because I was kind of focused on learning Python. And so, I needed like a front end too, needed to put it on like a web server and stuff like that. So I was having AI do the JavaScript and the CSS and stuff like that. And kind of moved on to, being more invested in AI, and just maybe fell into the hype a little bit. Had AI like creating full projects, and, none of those projects are anything that you see anymore. I don't, they never got fully developed because AI hit like a breaking point where it couldn't figure out an issue, and I didn't have enough understanding of those projects, so they just kind of fell to the wayside. One follow-up item, separator changes. Proceed, see updates. So I ended up, had dove in completely into AI, and then kind of found that to be a mistake, because I wasn't learning anything, and I also wasn't really getting anywhere, because I just didn't have enough understanding of the projects I was making. And I think the approach that I'm using now is a lot better. I have different approaches depending on what I'm trying to develop. If I'm really trying to learn what I'm doing, then I'm not going to use AI as heavily. I'm just using it to help me learn. But if the code base is in a good enough position, if the design patterns are already kind of laid out, all the best practices are already kind of determined, then and we're just kind of doing like repetitive function creations or adding features that are similar to other features, then for the most part, I can get AI to just like make the code for it now. The project that I'm doing now is a Bash project, so obviously Bash isn't too complex of a language. So once I kind of got the base of this project created, then I was able to let Claude do a lot of the work. So let's see where we're at. Phase 2 is fully complete. Very good. Let's go ahead And these in. Yeah. If you're not a software developer and you just, kind of wonder about AI, wonder about the hype of it, want to know how to like use it in your daily life, what it's able to do and not do, Also, feel free to ask questions about that because I see a lot of people not understanding how AI works and, thinking that there's too much hype around it, thinking that it's completely useless. And, I definitely don't think it's the end all be all and that it's just going to replace everybody. But it definitely has its uses. And you got to spend time with it and work with it to kind of figure out what those uses are and learn a little bit of how LLMs actually work to have a good understanding of how you can use it. Okay. This completes the phase 2. Is that all of that plan? Let's see here. Right. Migration, phase 1, phase 2. Test with values containing single quotes. Okay, we can go ahead and do phase 3. When it comes to using AI, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever you're using, you have to understand, what it knows. You can't just go, here, let's see if I can do this. La-di-da. So let's see what happens if I just ask Claude what was the final score for the Super Bowl. I think it was XL. Is that right? I think it was XL. Let's just see what happens. See, the Super Bowl XL was played on. Okay, I guess was that not right at all. Super Bowl final score. Oh, LX. My bad. Definitely not XL. Okay, let's try that. Was the final score for the Super Bowl LX? Okay. So you see, whenever we asked what was the final score for the Super Bowl XL, it immediately, you see, it says recalled Super Bowl XL outcome from existing knowledge. So its knowledge base was created before 2006, obviously. So all I had to do was look in its memory, and it did Super Bowl XL was played February 5th, 2006. This is the final score. But you can see when I asked it what was the final score for the Super Bowl LX, it went through thinking mode, which I have it in extended thinking mode. This is like one of the best models out right now, so it's able to do a lot of reasoning. first thing it said Super Bowl LX would be Super Bowl 60. That would be in February 2026. Let me research for this. See, so what it did here was within its knowledge base, it understands it could reason that the Super Bowl 60 would be in February 2026 based off of when previous Super Bowls were played. And so it understands, it also is able to reason that, well, 2026 is after its knowledge was generated or was gathered, after this model was created, basically. And so, I already have tools set up where it can browse the internet. So it browsed the internet for the final score. Got it, done. This is the final score. So it was able to search outside of its knowledge base and find what the actual score is. But I feel like if we go back here, let me turn extended thinking mode off, and we're also going to turn web search off. Now, and let's go into like a very like the lowest model. Okay, what was the final score for Super Bowl XL? Did I do that backwards again? No, I didn't. Super Bowl XL. Oh, wait. Wait, what? Oh, wait. Did I lose that conversation? Okay, it's right here. I did it backwards again. I'm sorry. My bad. I don't really watch football, if you can't tell. And apparently, I don't know the Roman numerals. What was the final score for Super Bowl LX? Because X is 10. I know these things. Based on the search results I found earlier. Okay, so what happened there is that the previous chat session had already... I gotta turn memory off too. And somehow the web search is still on. Maybe I can just go to like ChatGPT or something. Apparently Claude is too smart for this test. Let me go back here for a second. Creation needed outside. Now I can apply the one pure separator fix and update the plan to note the remaining files, or would you prefer to migrate window info and the inline callers as well before moving on? What's the issue? Have their own inline calls that weren't part of the phase 2 file list. They're not supposed to have that. Situation is broader. Just a separator fix, pure separator fix. Just needs, I said updated. Inline callers as well. Sure. Those functions don't have inline. No. I got to be signed in a ChatGPT for it to let me use it. I feel like it's just gonna use the web too, but we'll see. LX. Yeah, it just searched the web too. I'm trying to make an example, but that when it's not in its knowledge base, it will just give an incorrect answer. But they all keep searching the web because these are actually good models that know what they're doing. So And I apparently can't just turn off web search. Let me go. Let me see here. Let's turn memory off. And let's turn, maybe that was it. Is there a web search in here? Did I miss that? Guess not. Okay. Go to new chat. Web search is off. Round haiku. All right, let's try one more time. Was the final score for Super Bowl LX? Fetching sports data. What did it even do there? Display names. What did you fetch sports data with? Well, I don't know where it got that information from. So I guess my example I won't be able to make right now. These AIs are too smart for me to show you how dumb they are. No. I don't know. It's like it's not. ChatGPT isn't letting me turn it off either, unless I'm probably signed in or something. So I don't feel like doing it right now. That's all right. Settings. Use to train a mouse. Okay. Maybe I can try something else. Let's see about who performed at the Super Bowl LX. Hey, now we're getting somewhere. Why did you search the web? I've turned web search off. No, it keeps turning back on automatically. I'm trying to make an example. But as you can see, if I didn't have web search on, then why does it keep turning web search back on? I don't understand. Stop doing that. Okay. That's funny. But as you can see, if web search was not on, then it would have just said it doesn't have information about the halftime show or national anthem performer for Super Bowl LX. Actually, maybe I can show something, because I think I have some weaker models that I can actually use here that I can't remember how to use exactly. Let's see. Oh, llama. Oh, llama, show information. What can I just do? Oh, llama test? No, okay. Oh, llama list. Oh, llama run. I think we can use llama 3.18b. Haha. Now we're getting somewhere. Watch this. What was the final score for the Super Bowl LX? You saw what happened there, right? You saw what happened there. Wait, I'm trying to zoom in. My bad. I'm trying to zoom in so the people can see. All right. You see it. So this is an open source model called Llama 3.1 8B. So it's not nearly as powerful as these models on the cloud, such as ChatGPT and Claude and whatnot. So it's still an LLM. You know, you can still get answers from it. You know, I should be able to ask it what was the fine. Well, it already showed it, but score for the Super Bowl XL. It's played on February 5th, 2006. And I'm guessing that is the correct score. Yeah. It was 24-10. Well, what was it? Super Bowl XL final score is 40-22. Wait. See, that's not even a real thing. That's kind of what I figured. I don't know anything about football. My God. But in 2006, the Pittsburgh Steelers did beat the Seattle Seahawks 21-10. So, did he get that right? That's actually the correct score. XLV. Yeah. Sorry, let me go back here. That's finishing up. Okay. So yeah, so like I say, this is like a open source model. It's a lot weaker than the web models, but you can still get correct answers from it. Like I say, you can see that its reasoning is a lot weaker. I mean, you could ask it simple stuff. What is the capital of New York? Yeah, and you know, it's giving you output. It's letting you know the answer. And you know, when you think about LLMs, you know, they just operate so much different than other software because most software that you have is gonna, if you ask it the same, if you give it the same input, it's gonna give you the same output back. But even if I ask this again, what is the capital of New York? It gives different output based on the same input. This is kind of how LLMs work. And this is what, you know, separates them from other software. And that alone is powerful. But as you can see, if the LLM is not, you know, good enough, then the output that you get isn't that useful. And it also doesn't have the ability to reason. It's just trying to guess the next word over and over again. So for stuff like this, when I ask it, you know, what is the final score for LX? It says Super Bowl XL 40 was played in 2006, which I think all of that is wrong. The Pittsburgh Steelers, and then I think, yeah, even the final score is wrong. Right. If you're looking for LX 50, it was played in 2016. Also, not right. The Denver Broncos defeated the Carolina Panthers with the final score of 24-10. So if you don't know how to use AI and you are somehow using a weaker model like this, or a model that doesn't have reasoning, or a model that isn't able to browse the internet, then it's going to give you wrong answers. And you have to expect that it's going to be confident in whatever it says, because that's just how they work. Like, they're not going to say, oh, it could be this, but I'm not totally sure, and blah, 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 blah. It's not going to do all that. Now, I think for the open source model, I actually have given it the ability to search the web, but it's also a pretty weak model. So I think if I ask it the same question and tell it to search the web, it might still not give me the right answer. But let's see. What was the final score for the Super Bowl XL? Search the web for the answer. I think this model has the ability to search the web. We're going to see. Maybe this model doesn't really have that good of an ability. I think I need to use the coder model, because I don't think it actually searched the web. Let's go by. Let's go llama run Quinn 2.5 coder 7b. Load up this model, and we'll start with the basic question. What was the final score for the Super Bowl XL? Not right. Okay. Search the web for the final score of the Super Bowl XL. It's not searching the web. Maybe I don't have it set up right now. No. Oh, actually, I know what I'm doing wrong. And I think that is... oh, I think I know what I'm doing. Let me go back to this for a second, and then I'll go back and show you that. Caller updated. Yep. Migrated 5 existing functions to DB query. Added 6 new database functions. That's what we needed. Get active workspace windows. Color updated. Okay. Make sure that I can get started. I don't even think I have a test directory right now. You can see it trying to reason through things. Yep, no test directory. I'll create a standalone test script and scripts. That's fine. Okay. Now back to what I was doing. Okay, here's what I got to do actually. Let's go cd home shared projects LLM sphere LSLA and right Python 3 LLM tools py. Crap, I spelled something wrong. Crap. No module name, lang chain llama. Yeah, home shared. Well, I thought that was going to work. Okay, now. Well, okay. Well, I guess maybe that's not going to work either. Okay, I think it's just not working because I have it on a different user. I'll have to mess with that another time. I don't even know if my other one's going to work. Let's see. Python 3 LM sphere. Yeah. Interesting. I don't know why that LM tools isn't working. Maybe I could try to get that fixed real fast. Just add this VB. Read process output. Is Claude on here? I don't know. Yeah. Sorry, I've had to create a new user for streaming, so I don't really have everything set up right now. But that's okay. Yeah, I'm kind of, if I wasn't running this right now, then I'd fix it, but might be a little difficult to fix. Maybe we can though. We'll look at this real fast. Import llama lm. No module name, langchain llama. Yeah, I'm not totally sure. Yeah, that's something I should have known. That's probably something I should have been aware of. Okay. Now I think we're in here. Okay. Now I can test that out. Very good. Quotes and values. And this is finished now. I think after all this work, I finally finished one of these plan files. We got like 5 more to go. Okay. Frame fixed. Okay. Are we finished this plan file now? Let's make sure. I think that was it though. We'll trust you for now. Let's stage some more changes. Actually, I do remember one issue I guess we could address. Was it an app? Or was it... it was somewhere. I guess we'll find it later. Okay. If you have any questions about the workflow or how I work with AI, just let me know. I can inform you. So I have instructions set up for Claude, so you know, usually if you just tell it to make a get commit message, it wouldn't just automatically do this, but I kind of already let it know in the instructions how to make a get commit message, even though it just did it wrong. Which is something to be expected because this is a very long session. Yeah, and when you get into very long sessions, then you have to know that it's going to lose some of the context that it's supposed to have. Migrate. Usually the exact task that it's on, you know, it's got a good understanding of the context around that. So Okay. Let's come here. Bot up. Git commit. Oh, crap. Crap. That's not right. I can do it. Very good. Okay. I'm going to start a new session and keep it moving. What is this? That's just so weird. That's just so weird. Yeah, my VS Code is not working appropriately right now. That's okay. Fix it later. So work on this plan. Like I say, I give it a lot of instructions for this project, so me just giving it the file to reference from and just saying, let's get to work. It's not that simple. Like, I have instructions, so it kind of knows my workflow. It knows some standards for Bash to work off of. It's got a pretty good idea of things, so that I am able to just start some sessions this simply. And obviously it has its plan file that it's working off of, which we can also kind of look over. So these are, last night I had to just go through the code base and address some concerns, security concerns, improvements in process speed and whatnot, and had to create some plan files that we can go over. And that's kind of what we're working through today. So we just finished the SQL injection parameter binding file, which basically the way that I was managing the SQLite database before was prone to errors, was prone to hanging, and also prone to SQL injections. So kind of had to reimagine how we do our database connections. There's a lot of problems. Hey, cool. Where are those coming from? Why? What are we doing, actually? It's a markdown file, bro. Okay, I'm sorry. Apparently there are errors that you can have with markdown files. That's what that is. Okay, I'm less confused now. So, yeah, we had it fix all these issues, kind of routed errors better for database errors, and that should be all fixed now. It's something I'll go through and manually test out a little bit later on. Now we're going to go through eval on constructed launch commands. So what kdoitall does is you're able to make workspaces, and you're able to add multiple applications to the workspace. So I could launch Google Chrome, I could launch a terminal, a text editor, and I can position it across virtual desktops and screens and to specific positions. And so that involves running launch commands for these applications. So this session is, this plan is addressing the potential for attackers to kind of hijack this process. And like I say, eval is launching a command. So if they're able to make something in the database that, launches some kind of malicious command, that's a little concerning. So we're going to kind of go through and address that issue in this session. And these are things that I'm also learning about along the way. Like I say, I'm pretty decent with Bash and SQL and whatnot, but I don't know all the best practices. But, I try to address them the best I can. So, and also, a lot of these security concerns I don't think are that dire, just because, this isn't something that's running on the web. And I also have pretty good control over the database and what's actually in the database. And if I'm not controlling what's in the database, then the users are the ones filling the database, and you know they can be expected not to want to put malware on their own device. So, but let's see what we're planning through. So one thing that I tell Claude to do in the instructions is never just to immediately start editing files. I always want it to tell me what changes it plans to make, so I can kind of look it over, make sure it's got a good plan. A lot of this, like kind of slowing Claude down some, not just immediately doing all these edits, is also a lot just to help with my understanding. You have people that are going out and putting 10 agents to build an application, and they're all running their own chats and doing all this crazy work, and it's just impossible to keep up with. So this just kind of slows it down a bit so that it gives me time to think about what's happening, because that's really the biggest thing you miss out on. Like, when I wanted to understand something, you need time to understand it. I don't just need to take 5 seconds to be like, yep, that looks good, keep going. Like, I don't need to read over things, give my mind some time to process what's going on, and see if there's better solutions, or make sure that we're addressing everything. So that's kind of what we're doing here. So, summary of changes. The plan has 4 steps. Step 1 and 2 are quick validation wins. Step 3 is the main refactor, eliminating eval. And step 4 is a permissions hardening. Step 1, validate app ID format. Use it in registry scan applications. Add a reusable app ID format validator. This makes sense. I'm guessing that is, let me see if I can read this out. Yeah, that's just making sure that it's a desktop file and that it doesn't have any like malicious characters or characters that could be coming from malicious files. But that doesn't fully, you could probably still make something malicious there. So that's just one concern. Let's see. In registry scan applications, because what kdoitall actually does, it scans your operating system and finds all the desktop files, so it's able to get a list of all your applications so that you can create the workspaces. After extracting the app ID from the desktop file name, add validation before processing. Okay, validate app ID format, reject malicious desktop file names. This goes right after the app ID assignment. Okay. Add app ID validation in the launch by app ID and launch by app ID after the existing validate parameter pass calls and before the DB lookups. Add, I don't know if that's necessary. I feel like we're just doing the same thing at multiple points when it probably just needs to be done at one. Replace eval with a callback function pattern. So this is new. This is the main refactor. The idea, parameter number 9, changes from a command string, launch command, to a function name, launch function. And a new parameter, launch function argument, passes the argument for that function. Execute launch window, calls launch function. I don't fully understand what it's saying there. Define the GTK launch callback at module level after the source block before execute launch window. Target app ID. Change parameter handling. Like I say, an edit like this is changing a lot about how this software works. So I definitely want to understand what's happening and make sure we're not breaking something, and making sure that we're using the safest process and just the best process. So Well, I didn't really want to do all 4 steps. Like I said, people that are just vibe coding and just having AI make all this stuff, they're not able to get this granular with things. They're not making these decisions that a human needs to be making, and especially for security stuff. The input boundary, yeah, some marginal to database tampering scenario is weak. If an attacker has write access to your CLI file, they already have shell access and can do far more damage. I think I can agree to that. And once step 3 eliminates eval in favor of launch function, let's just app ID pass the GTK launch applicant and break out of the quoting anyways. It just becomes a bad argument to GTK launch. Only real argument for step 2 is defense in depth. It's a single line, and validating close to the point of use is generally good practice, but given the low risk at step 3, moves the actual danger. I'd say step 1 is sufficient. Like I say, it's not very much. It's not really adding a whole lot to the process by doing step 2. Like I say, it's just a very simple validate add ID, validate app ID format. Yeah, I guess we can keep it. Step 3 is definitely where I want to understand things a lot more. It's a pretty big centerpiece of how kdoitall works, and yeah, I don't fully understand the change that it wants to make, so we'll work through that after it does step 1 and 2. I'm excited to actually finish all these plans, so that I can release version 0.2. Still early release, but I added a lot of stuff between 0.1 and 0.2. And I think once 0.2 comes out, then I'll really be trying to get some other people to use kdoitall and, having other users test it out and see what kind of issues they might run into, what kind of features they'd like to see. I think it's a really interesting project. Because I've used a lot of different operating systems and have kind of wanted something similar to what I'm making. And I haven't really seen anything, honestly. Like, I'm on Fedora right now with KDE Plasma and Wayland, and I've, looking through blogs and stuff like that and discussions online. Sorry, pause. Okay, did I lose my train of thought? I probably just lost my train of thought. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so, what kdoitall is able to do is, you can just run a single command and you can launch like a full workspace. So, if I have a project that I'm working on that uses a web server, I could launch VS Code in the project directory. I could launch a web browser to the test server, and could launch a text editor. You can do whatever, and you can launch it across different virtual desktops. You can launch it on whatever screen you have. kdoitall is able to detect your active screens and stuff like that. So, I'm excited to finish these plans and actually start showing a demo. Yeah, I think the current version that I have released on GitHub is really like the basic version. I wouldn't suggest using it yet, like I say, because I'm still adding on some security features and just a lot of extra features in general. So let's see if we can understand what's going on here. Replace eval with direct function calls. The problem, on line 119, there's eval launch command. What that is just whenever we want to do like a basic launch for an application, it's just got a simple launch command like that could just be code, and that would launch VS Code. But it's a little more complex than that. I can kind of show what. Oops, see daisy. Sorry. So like launch by app ID, that's what launches desktop files, and it puts together the launch command. Yeah, so it's using GTK launch to launch applications, and then it just does a disown to make sure it's not really attached to the terminal. That you could close the terminal without worrying about your applications launch from kdoitall actually closing as well. But this has some security concerns because you could get some other kind of command in there, then it could be a malicious command, and that's what we're trying to address here. So I need to kind of build my understanding a little bit more. Okay, our launch command is a string like GTK launch or Mozilla Firefox, dev null, and or Firefox, new window, blah blah blah. Yep. The eval parses this string as shellcode, redirections, backgrounding, quoting, and all. Okay, that's what makes it dangerous. Any shell meta character in the string gets interpreted. I'm about to have to hop off here pretty soon. Gotta start getting ready for work. I got about 5 more minutes, but we'll see if we can understand this before I hop off. And, you know, if you've been watching the stream, be sure to give me a follow. We're trying to stream Tuesday through Thursday, at least two of those 3 days. Probably working on kdoitall. I've got a few other projects that I could work on as well, but I really want to get out version 2 of this and kind of put it out to the public. See if I can get some users for testing. Okay. So libcore core.sh new helper function added at module level after the source block before execute launch window launch via GTK. I mean, that seems like what's already in there. This is the callback that replaces what was previously the string. Parameter 9 changes meaning. Before 9 was the launch command, now it's the launch function. Okay, I'm following along with that. So instead of just creating the function, we're housing the function. Oh, I'm sorry, we're housing, instead of just creating the command, we're housing the command in a function. For launch command, a shell command string after launch function is a function name. Not totally sure how I feel like that improves things, but okay. A new parameter 13 is added, which is the actual argument to pass to that function. 13 syntax uses a default empty string. Since not all callers need an argument, passes the app ID. Hypothetical app with no parameters might pass nothing. App, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. The validation line changes from checking launch command to checking launch function. The execution block changes. Debug log eval launch command to launch function with the launch function argument. It's just bash calling a function by variable name. This launch func arg is properly quoted. There's no code injection possible. The value is always treated as a single string argument. Never parsed as shell code. Okay. It only prints to, currently it constructs a command string and passes it. Variable. Needs multiple arguments. The callback function can accept them as a single limited string and split internally, or we can expand. Yeah, I still don't fully understand what's going on here. This should break it down to the point I can understand it. Yes, I have a decent idea what's going on, but I don't understand how it just going from passing a command to passing a command by passing it through a function is safer, but okay. Launch type desktop via launch by app ID, normal input, launch by app ID, as it is, simple stuff. Eval parses, GTK launch, redirect, control, and disown, works fine. Proposed callback, launch by app ID, passes function name plus argument, launch function, launch via GTK, launch function argument, the app ID, yep. Execute launch window runs, launch function with the argument, which is launch via GTK or Mozilla Firefox, so it's giving it the actual function. Okay. Inside launch via GTK. This is what I'm not understanding how that's different, but we'll see. Okay. App ID equals foo RMRF. Yep, that looks pretty dangerous. Launch by app ID constructs launch command GTK launch foo RMRF. Execute launch window runs eval GTK foo RMRF. Looks pretty bad. Now, step 1 to 2, now block this, the app ID is rejected. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Proposed callback. Launch by app ID passes the launch function argument, passes the malicious command, execute launch window, runs launch via GTK inside launch via GTK. The blank is inside quotes. It's a literal character, not a separator. GTK launch receives foo RMRF has one argument. Can't find that app and fails harmlessly. Is that right? Is that what actually happens? See, I think I can. I'm sorry. Let me just start a new one. So, GTK launch Google Chrome. Launches Google Chrome. Okay, go away. Okay, go away. But does it in parentheses work as well? Okay. Now I'm following it. Yeah. Okay. So it turns it into a string. I'm following it more, but I'm still going to look into this more at a later time. But I'm going to have to jump off of here, though. I've got to start getting ready to head into work. Thanks for hanging out in the chat. Be sure to give me a follow. Check out socials. I don't actually have anything on socials right now. This is probably going to run about maybe a week or so. Just kind of live streaming and not really putting on my socials just so I can kind of get used to streaming. And then I'll start posting on socials more. So, but for now, check me out on Twitch, YouTube. That's where I'll be. Tuesday through Thursday. Yeah, probably between like around midday. It's been fun. All right, you guys. Go man out.